Hi everybody, welcome to our Lab 1 video. In this lab, we'll have two different videos for you to watch. On this first one, I'm gonna make a general introduction to R, and on the second one, I'll guide you through the lab this first time so you know how to access RStudio Cloud, where your assignments will be. I'll walk through the assignments with you to give you some confidence that you can do it on your own from the second lab on. Okay? All right, so why R? You might be asking that question, so let's again start there. We all know that statistical calculations are pretty tedious and repetitive, so it doesn't make sense to make those by hand. So we'll need some kind of computing tool to do the calculation, the tedious calculations for us. You'll notice that sometimes in the course, I'll have you do some calculations by hand, but it's just so you can get an appreciation of what the logic behind a particular test is. But I'll only do that when the calculations are pretty simple. And most of the times, however, we'll do that once, but most of the times when you're doing your assignments, you will not have to do any calculations by hand. We'll use a software for that, in this case, R. Now, of course, I had other options. I have worked with Excel before in class. The thing with Excel is that it can get a little bit difficult to type in formulas. It's not very friendly in the end, even though people are more familiar with Excel in general. Typing formulas, statistical formulas that are sometimes kind of long, gets a little bit clunky. In addition, there are some limitations to these softwares. They're not powerful enough to run any kind of analysis, right? And I'm coming into this course with the idea that some of you will be satisfied with the overview and the knowledge of stats that you will gain here, but some of you will get interested and maybe would like to pursue careers in data science, for example, right? So I want to set you up for this long-term learning of stats if you wish to do that. And we had some students that actually left the course and continued their education, became data analysts after this. So it can happen to you too. And I want to set you up with a software that will, be powerful enough for you to continue to grow while using it. There are, of course, other software that are pretty powerful and that can run all kinds of analysis, that have flexibility in coding possibilities within it, like SPSS. And most of you are probably familiar with it because most courses in psychology undergraduate courses do use SPSS. The issue with SPSS, to me, is that it's a very, very, very expensive software. You may recall that you probably, if you had a stats class that used SPSS, you bought a kind of not as powerful version, but for students, and those versions are not very expensive. They cost money, but they're not super expensive. But once you're out of the university and you're no longer a student, the cost becomes sometimes very prohibitive for you to just buy it as an individual. So, I worry that the business model here is to get you hooked to it as a student, and then that's the only software you kind of learned and became comfortable with learning stats. But then when you graduate, you become sort of dependent, so you end up investing money later on if you wish to continue to run your own data analysis. So I want to try and avoid that for you by teaching you to use a software that's fully free and open source, right? So again, that will be helpful for your continued education because you won't be hooked into a software that will cost you a lot of money that maybe right after you graduate, it's the kind of money that you're not willing to spend. I know I'm not, and I'm a professional already, and I think it's just way too much money to invest in a software like SPSS. So I prefer open source software that is freely available. And the nice thing about open source is that a lot of people contribute packages to it that would allow you to, I myself, for example, when I'm running some more advanced statistical analysis, I use packages that others have developed that make my life much, much, much easier, right? So I hope you understand more about what I mean. We'll use some packages, some stats packages that are pre-made in R that would allow us to be pretty flexible in our analysis while taking advantage of, in a good sense, of the work of others that came before us. And plus, by teaching you R, teaching you statistics with R, I am hoping I can get you some programming skills on the way, because R is a programming language, and as you get familiar with it, you're basically implicitly also learning how to code. Okay, I'm not, again, assuming that you know any coding at all. You don't have to be worried about that. But it is the case that you will be engaging with computer programming as you do R. It's not a point and click type of statistical software. So minimally, you'll have to learn how to read code and understand that code enough that you will be able to modify the code to a new data set in your independent assignments and exams. Okay? Again, I'm not assuming any knowledge from you. You will see how what I provide will be sufficient for you to make the modifications that are necessary. All right? So what is R and RStudio? So R is a programming language and free software environment for statistical computing and graphics, supported by the R Foundation for Statistical Computing. It's not an app, right? It's a programming language, but it does come with one, R.exe for Windows or R.app for Mac users. But none of those apps are very friendly, the one that is built in R. But not to worry, because there is a very friendly app called RStudio that provides a clean, professional interface to R that I find much nicer to work with than either the Windows or Mac defaults. Like R itself, RStudio is free software. You can find all the details on their webpage. Now, the goal today is to get you immediately working with R. This typically involves installing R and RStudio on your laptop. Now, the steps here are: you download and install R, you download and install the app RStudio, you install a bunch of packages that will be necessary for the code that I'm going to give you to run. And then you get really frustrated over a bunch of errors that appear, and the errors are different for different students because it depends on their machine. Some, different stuff happens, and I used to teach in class, and then we would spend the entire first class and actually a good portion of each class figuring out the different bugs. So students would get very, very frustrated until they're able to fix all the errors and get started. And some of them by that point just hate R, right? So I want to avoid all of those things and just get us started. So for us to get immediately started, so that you don't have to overcome your initial kind of negative feelings towards R before you begin to like it, I want you to get started and like it and understand how powerful it is before you have to deal with the frustration of the program installation process, the installation of RStudio and the packages, because you will be equipped or better equipped to even deal and respond to these errors if you already are familiar with the general use of it. So I was particularly worried about this because we would be online, and while it was frustrating for students in class to get everything installed and up and running, I was there to help them. The TA was there to help them and go around and try to figure things out together. Because we're long distance, I wanted a solution that would make this process easier and simpler. And it's the first time I'm teaching with it, so I'm hoping it will work. and which is RStudio Cloud. That's one recommended way of teaching with R, a software that was developed for teaching with R. So the cool thing about this solution is, well, the solution itself is the use of R and RStudio in the cloud, or in short, RStudio Cloud. And it's nice because it does have the exact same interface. So you'll learn how to use it, learn all the tools I want you to learn about how to use R. You only skip the installation process, right? So it's not on your laptop, it is in the cloud. But the nice thing is that I can share with you all my computing environment such that I can anticipate all of the errors and then correct them all before I hand it out to you. So I install all the packages that are needed, the right versions of the packages, so that it goes smoothly on your end. Again, I think I have said that, but it's the first time I use it in class, so I'm hoping it will work out just fine. But if it doesn't, we can reassess. But this is the initial plan, and I've tested it out on computers that do not have R installed, and it seems fantastic. So we'll try things out together. I'll try and get you started together with me, like hand holding, step by step. If you're more familiar with it already, you're happy to just jump into this particular link here that is available in Canvas in our module 1. Click there. Sign up at RStudio Cloud. It's for free, and then you're ready to go. If there's a little classroom there called Graduate Stats, and your first lab is already all set up there. But if you don't know, I've never used R before, have no idea what you're talking about, we'll have a second lab video, where I'll take you through step by step together, and going from the Canvas link to your to your account, to creating an account in RStudio, all the way up to the lab. All right. So the process of getting started is basically this. You're going to click on the link on our Canvas page, sign up for RStudio, and then you're ready to go. All right. Again, I'll help you get started and access our course environment and start working on our first assignments, which is basically to get you familiar with R and doing some basic computing in there. All right. See you in a bit. Bye-bye.